Precision agriculture. Recently, we have been receiving a significant number of inquiries on this specific topic with notable frequency. How do we begin to incorporate precision agriculture into our aerial spraying company operations? This particular issue is quite straightforward. We possess numerous areas to concentrate on regarding precision agriculture. Precision agriculture is not exclusively about the droplet, the application, or the crop treatment. Nevertheless, for an aerial spraying company, precision agriculture truly encompasses all sectors of the organization. So, if any sector is not running smoothly, obviously this operation will not happen smoothly. It will not happen in an objective and assertive manner. Therefore, when this kind of inquiry arises, and recently it has been occurring rather frequently, we initiated the preparation of comprehensive material to elucidate how to commence the integration of precision agriculture. This involves adopting a mindset focused on development, enhancement, and expansion for the organization, ensuring that initiatives genuinely begin to produce tangible outcomes. Consequently, when meticulously assessing this particular aspect, we can deliberate on the potential of altering the nozzles, contemplate implementing essential modifications to the electronic systems, as well as reassessing the entire financial division of the company and the extensive logistics division of the organization. Therefore, a sequence of transformations must occur to ensure that in reality, all these enhancements culminate in the utmost efficiency of the spraying procedure, and indeed the client departs thoroughly satisfied with everything they obtain from your organization. Conversely, you advance to a higher level where you have the capability to deliver significantly more and you are able to showcase substantially more of the value of what you are accomplishing. You will genuinely need to appreciate that, and your client will ultimately end up paying a higher amount for it. This reality is already apparent in numerous states throughout Brazil, with a multitude of companies that have chosen to pursue this particular direction, and they are experiencing significant success with it. Therefore, we observe that it genuinely is a domain that everyone should sincerely pay close attention to and begin analyzing how they can initiate all of this work. Therefore, as we have received numerous inquiries concerning this matter, I believe it is worthwhile to address it methodically, step by step. It can be in several videos bringing all these issues to you. Nonetheless, fundamentally speaking, if we consider the fact that an agricultural aviation enterprise from the 1990s or the early 2000s did not possess a wide array of instruments to precisely evaluate what it was achieving. So she fundamentally employed hydrosensitive paper for the verification of droplets, and she utilized more fundamental and rudimentary systems in the management of the office, and that was sufficiently adequate. During that period, we certainly encountered greater challenges, had a reduced amount of information, fewer documented records, and experienced less convenience in utilizing the information because the process was considerably slower. During that particular period, we were merely commencing the utilization of GPS technology, initiating the preliminary stages of directing the airplane for application purposes. Consequently, we were still significantly distant from attaining truly effective quality and precision in agriculture. It's obvious that if we analyzed it at the time and said that was a victory of precision, that was indeed a significant improvement over what we had before. However, we cannot make a comparison with the years 2024 or 2025, as practically everything has undergone radical changes. Therefore, we emphasize that information truly is the essential tool you must bring into your company. Since it is an aerial application company, fundamentally executing the work more swiftly and with significantly greater precision will undoubtedly contribute positively to the entire process. The company will be capable of achieving significantly improved revenue because it is executing all tasks more swiftly, with enhanced objectivity, with superior control and application precision, resulting in the client being considerably more satisfied because in reality the treatments are occurring, and indeed the client acknowledges the benefits they observe in the field. The treatment process becomes more rapid and the treatment becomes substantially more effective. Therefore, this entire matter is indeed considerably significant. So, in addressing this inquiry, how do I initiate within my organization? we comprehend that the initial phase will be divided into approximately 5 distinct activities, and fundamentally, it begins with awareness. The first step is to become aware, to make the business owner aware, to make the company's employees aware, to make the pilots aware, general awareness to understand that there needs to be change, to understand that there needs to be improvement, that there needs to be growth of the company as a whole. And this heightened awareness is indeed a significantly substantial turning point. From the moment you become aware that in 2024, 2025 now, we already have incredible technologies that can bring significant gains to companies, and you realize that you're not using them, you end up falling behind. You think you're doing the right job. You think, but I've always made money doing it this way. But over time, you earn less. And over time, you fall further behind because things keep changing. Therefore, this increased awareness is indeed the very first step. How does it commence? By becoming fully aware, ensuring that the entire team is comprehensively informed, organizing meetings, and from this heightened awareness, assessing the primary aspect, which is the most deteriorated section of the company, identifying which department is underperforming the most. If we examine it from this perspective, agricultural machinery is in a minimally operational state. What specific type of GPS technology do we utilize, and what kind of information do we receive from it? Our office spaces are well prepared for us to implement a management system with greater efficiency. We possess suitable computers, and we have trained and qualified personnel ready to commence carrying out an activity such as this. So, if you don't have it, the first step is awareness, and to see and start looking for these people and start talking to your team, so that, in fact, the team buys into the same idea as yours and begins to work towards this change. Why? Because each and every time we attempt to implement an improvement, an enhancement, or growth, we will inevitably encounter internal conflicts, individuals who are resistant to change, who do not wish to improve, who do not desire to evolve, and who prefer to remain unchanged. Nevertheless, like any enterprise, a business is fundamentally built on profit. It is constructed on financial return. People come together to collectively generate a financial return. That is the goal of a company. Therefore, when we face the initial difficulty and promptly abandon our efforts, we are not merely discarding our aspiration of not evolving, but we are also creating an opportunity for the competition to approach us more closely and in many instances surpass us and capture our clients. At that point, we're out of the market. So, we have noticed that a significant part of the beginning of everything is awareness and a clear and broad conversation with the entire team. So, reaching this consensus, identifying all of this, reaching this first stage, with this first stage being overcome and everyone agreeing that change is indeed necessary, that evolution is needed, we will start to see what, in fact, we need to tackle in that first stage. So we have observed that numerous companies have commenced utilizing systems that deliver comprehensive financial information, payment management information, and receipt management control. Certainly, this is a fundamental matter. This is something that every organization requires from the very beginning, ever since it is established. So, whether you utilize more automated spreadsheets or Excel spreadsheets, for instance, it is up to you how you choose to employ them. The important thing is that you have this type of control in action. No longer an agenda, no longer a paper and pen, but rather a much more precise system where anyone who sits down can check the table and truly understand what is happening. So that is essentially the gist of it. But we still lack precision agriculture, still no evolution. We've just begun organizing things. In the subsequent phase, following this heightened awareness, and once these relatively straightforward yet essential issues are systematically organized, we will indeed progress into those matters that will begin to disrupt the entire circuit. The equipment will necessitate modification, and alternative equipment will require utilization. A distinct screen will have to be observed, and various methods of operation will need to be investigated. Additionally, guidelines will have to be established so that the organization can genuinely commence evaluating what is being accomplished. Once the tasks are completed, it will be essential to verify if they were executed as planned, if they truly produced financial outcomes, and if not, to understand the reasons and the manner in which they did not. So it's a second stage that's also a bit complicated because it will again encounter dissatisfaction. But come on, they're demanding from me, they're questioning my work, they're questioning how do I spray, how do I adjust the equipment. However, indeed, to attain precision agriculture, it is essential for us to progress through these straightforward steps to genuinely accomplish what is significant, because up to this point, we have not fully satisfied our customer. If we think of ourselves as an aerial spraying company providing services to a third party, all these changes I mentioned have not brought any change to the final customer. He has no way to appreciate your work. He can't say, look, Flano works well for me because in fact he has an internal control table in his company. He indeed manages his company. He indeed has an organized department, but this hasn't changed anything for the client. So when will this start to change the reality for the client? When you commence delivering and engaging in activities that genuinely bring a significant gain to your organization, you will truly start to observe an increase in the amount of money in your bank account. Additional resources will materialize, and essentially this will occur through the implementation of more intricate processes, more sophisticated management strategies, and more advanced systems that will genuinely furnish you with information about what is transpiring. So for instance, if I consider a corporation and the spray nozzles that this particular corporation utilizes, they are indeed nozzles. What is the duration of time that a spray nozzle typically endures? First question to answer simply. It can last 1 year, it can last 2 years, it can last 3 years. The body of the nozzle can last longer. However, what about the tip of the nozzle that allows the liquid to pass through, which will inevitably lead to abrasion, alter the configuration of the tip, and eventually wear it down? Is the droplet truly emerging in the manner it is supposed to? Am I genuinely managing my equipment in the correct way? Am I effectively controlling this situation? I'm quite certain that I am not. If I evaluate that the nozzles installed on my aircraft are easily over 3 years old, essentially I must be doing something incorrectly. But Felipe, doesn't it have to last a long time? No, it can last a long time. It can certainly last a very long time, but the tips will not last. And we will start to evaluate, leaks begin to appear, we will notice that the threads are not in good condition, we will see corrosion where there shouldn't be any, we will see that the angle of liquid passage is no longer suitable, the flow rate has increased beyond what it should be, there are irregular nozzles, each with a different dimension. Certainly, items indeed require replacement and things must be maintained in the ongoing management of progression. Therefore, I am confident because there is no alternative when you embark on your aircraft. There exists a regulation that genuinely mandates you to, for instance, conduct maintenance on the aircraft based on the hours of operation. When it arrived, the engine reached a certain number of hours. You have to open it and do maintenance and so on. The agricultural airport is very similar to this. In fact, the plane is an agricultural plane, a plane for spraying. If we just focus on the plane and ignore the agricultural part, we're missing everything. Ultimately, what matters is the customer being happy with the drop landing correctly. So the question we receive and have been receiving quite frequently is, where do I start? I've already mentioned 2 important points. The collective awareness of the entire team as a whole, beginning with the manager initially gaining a comprehensive understanding and subsequently communicating this awareness to the whole team. The subsequent step is to execute substantial modifications in terms of internal management, account supervision, revenue control, and validation of this element, making it somewhat more, let's say, automated than what numerous organizations implement in the present day. And in the third stage, start looking at equipment. So without the initial correction, looking at equipment will work. Of course it will work, but it will last for a short time. You'll fool yourself into thinking you're doing it right, as you won't establish a standard for verification or a standard for nozzle checks. Let me give you a very simple example. You hire a company, and this is where many people get it wrong, right? You hire a company to conduct tests on the equipment that is on the airplane. So the company goes there, sets up the equipment, creates a verification scenario, tests the nozzle droplets, tests and calibrates the plane. Look, your plane is configured, adjusted, and ready to start the season. Is there any comprehensive strategy established by the company for the continuous verification of this equipment after today? What is the advised frequency for these inspections, and how consistently will an individual verify that the position where a nozzle was installed and configured on the aircraft remains unaltered? And if it remains in that position, the nozzle's opening stays the same, there's no excessive wear, and it's not incorrect. Therefore, all of this meticulous attention and modification of behavior should indeed evolve into a continuous and sustained practice within your organization. So, That is exactly what I pointed out at the very start. Heightened awareness, open dialogue, implementation of essential controls, replacement of outdated equipment, and assigning management responsibility over each specific piece of equipment. Therefore, all of these actions will undoubtedly bring you significant benefits, a substantial turning point within your company, and you will begin to comprehend what exactly. That today you cannot charge your client a fair price for your work because you might not be delivering fair work to your client. And your client lumps you together with others thinking, well, an application is an application, any will do. But from the moment you start showing that your company has state-of-the-art equipment, that you perform verification, and that everything is consistently checked, what will happen is that his crops will improve. He will commence to observe that you have transformed your method of working, will start to perceive that everything has genuinely changed. And this transformation is, in practice, precision agriculture. It is indeed fundamentally about implementing all these enhancements and advancements into practical application to attain favorable outcomes. So, will it happen overnight? Maybe, but it's unlikely that you'll change a company of 20, 30 years overnight, but you have to start, and that day one, should have been yesterday. It must have been yesterday, day one must have been yesterday. Thus, from this particular movement, the question starts to be answered. Certainly, but what if I decide to implement modifications to my nozzles? What else should I create besides investing in equipment? The next crucial step after investing in equipment is to make a schedule to check your equipment. Create a checklist schedule for the equipment to see if it continues delivering what you expected or what you purchased from the beginning. So let's understand. A nozzle will wear out over time as liquid flows through it. The liquid is abrasive. It's not just water, but water mixed with bran, which will pass through and corrode the nozzle inside. The sunlight will eventually damage the nozzle and so forth, so there exists a multitude of adversaries to keep you consistently prepared. What distinguishes this? If you develop a comprehensive plan, a management strategy for each individual piece of equipment you utilize, you will comprehend that all of this remains at the forefront, consistently adjusted, and always capable of serving you and delivering precisely what your client anticipates. To understand, will errors happen? Yes, they will. Errors are unavoidable. Every task will have some mistakes. There will be an error rate. What do we work on? To reduce this percentage to almost zero. Will it be zero? Maybe not. It will be almost zero. So this awareness is more than important. Once you realize that a simple spray nozzle lets you create a whole plan, management and control, you'll see that with other equipment, it's just about doing the same. Then your GPS navigation device starts to demand a different level of attention, and you will understand that a flow meter is absolutely essential in your application line. So let us move forward. As I am confident there are numerous organizations that are convinced they do not require a flow control system in their aircraft. I'm sure if I talk to several clients, they'll say, activity rate, Felipe, I don't need a flow meter on my plane. I can control it, I make adjustments, I calibrate, I'm good, and so on. Then we would say something like, I drive the car every day, I have my intuition, I have my feeling, and I'm used to the car. Now, I don't know if when I'm going 40 miles per hour, if I didn't have a speedometer in front of me, I would actually be going 40 miles per hour. I don't know if I sped up a little more, like now I'm at 50. If I don't have a reference to see that I'm at 50, how am I going to know that I'm at 50? So it's precisely at this point again about refinement. Either I need to develop comprehensive methodologies or I require the necessary information so that I can accurately assess whether what I am doing is indeed executed well, if it is indeed correct, and if there needs to be any enhancement or modification. So how do I measure this? With tools.